Good evening. Welcome to Around the World with Dee and Friends. Harsh Schmidt should be joining me. We're going to be talking about India, Gen Z. They're protesting. Talk about China's AI and education. China robots working on the farms. Uh, U.S. War on Iran and the rise in grocery prices. And like I said, Hoss should be joining me soon. And right now, I'd appreciate it if you could hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on X, follow me on Upscrolled. And right now, I'm going to be sharing the show to let everybody know that we are live. So that's what I am doing right now. Just waiting for Hosh as well to show up. Let me start sharing, and sharing. That's what I am doing as quickly as I can, is sharing the show out. Sergey, Evelina, letting everybody know we're live. I'm sharing it again on my timeline. We're getting the word out. We're live, we're live, we're live. Oops, what happened? Mm-hmm. Just share to some groups. Let them know we're live here. And then we'll get the show started once I get my sharing done. Yeah, it takes me time to get this sharing done. Try to move through this as quick as possible. Okay, moving along. As I said, I'm moving along as quickly as possible. And it'd be nice if Hosh would get in here a little earlier. So, anyway, I'm sharing and sharing. Oh, I'll try this again. And here we go. Okay, and I can see some people are joining. Thank you for being here. As I'm trying to share the show around and try to be quick with it. Before we get into our topics, let everybody know we're here. There's so much going on in the world, and there are so many things to talk about. But I find it interesting. One of the things is, the grocery prices, and that was something that, we were told, he was going to do, the Trump administration was going to do something about the grocery prices. And with the war on Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, it's just impossible for prices to go down. Um, the trucks got to get the groceries to the stores. Uh, Diesel's expensive, and you don't know from week to week how high the diesel's going to be. Oh, hello, Evelina. It's good to see Evelina. It's just a gamble in the prices. It's horrible, the prices, and you don't know what to say. Is there any predictions? How can you predict? You don't know what's going to happen from week to week. And a lot of people don't realize this issue of supply chains. We have it dealing with it now. And like I said last week, I couldn't believe it. How high on Tuesday, the price from Monday to Tuesday, there was a 51-cent increase in regular gas. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. And I just had gotten gas on Monday. I filled up my tank. I was glad I didn't wait, to the following day, because I really would have been annoyed. It's just maddening, And he just, what does Trump say? Oh, that's just a nice word. Grocery is just a nice word. It's crazy, and people are suffering, and he's just gambling every week. Gambling every week with prices. It's just like he just looks to profit. Him and his group are profiting, and the hell with the people. They and the people that he doesn't care about are the ones that are struggling, and every penny does matter. But he doesn't care about that. It doesn't concern him. His friends are all happy. They're making a fortune right now, while the people are starving. And then in the Republicans again today, uh, brought up about with Medicaid, with wanting to cut Medicaid. You know, Basically what they're doing is they're making it harder for people to qualify. And it's sickening. It really is, because there they are, just okay with the wealthiest. Making money. Everything goes to the wealthiest. Yeah, let people just die. He doesn't care. Yeah, it's horrible, this world we live in right now. The world of selfishness. Human lives don't matter. Okay, I think I'm gonna um, get on to the first article. Like I said, Hashmed is supposed to be here. I called him, but he didn't answer, so I don't know what's going on. Here I go. Let me see. Share screen. Um, this was interesting. Now, this topic, some people are furious with, other people think it's okay. But anyway, this is from the China Daily, and it was written today, July 23rd, by Xi Hashang. AI integration. Digital twins revolutionize classroom learning. At Jilin Polytech of Water Resources and Electric Engineering, students wearing virtual reality headsets stand before a digital twin of a massive dam. With a flick of their fingers, they unleash a simulated flood. Water cascades down the valley, alarms flash, and the pressure feels almost real. As sensors flicker, an artificial intelligence powered system scores every decision they make in real time. The feedback is instant. Adjust the sluice gate, optimize the discharge curve, try again. What once took months of on site training and carried significant safety risk can now be practiced repeatedly in a digital twin environment, a digital replica of a physical object or system. Now, students usually practice in digital twin environments before moving to on-site operations. This efficient and cost-effective approach has significantly improved their proficiency, allowing them to master such skills 3 to 4 times faster than before, said Lu Dingding, deputy head of the Industry Education Integration Department at Beijing Frito Technology Company, a digital twin and spatial intelligence company. Lu's team has helped establish numerous digital twin platforms across sectors such as electric power, water, conservancy, transportation, and energy. He said that digital twins are rewriting the rules of vocational training, predicting a future where 70% of a training program will be virtual and only 30% hands on. Lewis said that with the rise of advanced technologies like digital twins and AI, there will be strong demand for talent in related fields. Vocational schools now have a window of opportunity to cultivate professionals such as IA prompt engineers, digital twin scenario designers, and specialists in intelligent equipment maintenance and spatial intelligence applications, he said. He called on vocational schools to seize these new directions during the transition period by setting up new majors and training programs. In April, 5 ministries, including the Ministry of Education, jointly issued the AI Plus Education Action Plan, called for full integration of intelligent technologies across all aspects of education. In July, the ministry added 27 new vocational majors, including embodied intelligence, computing, and humanoid robot engineering. The policy message is clear. AI integration into vocational education is no longer an elective, but a required course, said Zhao Zemin, director of the Academic Affairs Office at Hunan Industry Polytech in Changsha, Hunan Province. Zhao described the impact of AI and other advanced technologies on vocational education as disruptive, saying they are redefining what vocational institutions should aim for. In the past, vocational students were trained to be operators who could follow instructions and perform repetitive tasks. But AI is taking over precisely those tasks, he added. According to a McKinsey and Company report, the rise of generative AI is propelling the era of automation to arrive a decade earlier than anticipated. In China, around 50% of work activities are projected to be automated by 2030. and about 200 million workers, equivalent to 30% of China's total workforce, will need to reskill or upskill, the report said. Despite the overwhelming impact of AI, Chinese vocational institutions should not steer students away from it. Instead, they should equip students to harness it, Zhao said. For these institutions, it is imperative to shift focus to cultivating versatile technical talents with hands on experience, innovation capabilities, and AI expertise, he added. China is planning for the future, and I like that line where it said about when they see that the workforce is going to change, and that statement says that the workforce will need to reskill or upskill, the report said. Yeah, so they're planning, planning ahead of time. Here, everything is in the open. And the U.S. doesn't really state anything. They talk about wanting AI centers, and then when they talk about automation and different things, they don't talk about people, needing to train and help people get, well, as they put it, upskilled. The U.S. makes education harder for people, and the AI and the problem people have here with the AI is the data centers. They're a problem of their location. China has moved to having the AI buildings and systems in the water because it uses too much power and actually needs too much water to function to cool off. And there are problems with that. And that's the one thing. I like China. And I always see how they're planning. They methodically plan things and look to how they can help the population, what they have to do for the workforce, what they have to do for their people. Okay, now I'm going to bring us to another article where China is concerned. And this is something the U.S. would be doing as well, but they don't have the systems in place yet. But this is another thing where you have to plan for the future. And this is from China Daily as well, and it was written today, on the 23rd of July, 2026. It says Zhejiang deploys 108 arm robot for cotton topping, slashes labor cost. So you look at all the people that this was their job, this is where they were working. And again, it's planning for the future. It has 108 mechanical arms, rolls through cotton fields like a slow moving tank, and performs more than 300,000 snips an hour. It is not some new weapon from a superhero movie, but a real robot built to do one of farming's most tedious jobs, cotton topping. The unmanned machine developed by Chinese engineers, is now operating in the vast cotton fields of northwest China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, the country's largest cotton producing area. Standing 3.8 meters tall and weighing 8 metric tons, this robotic cotton topper is equipped with advanced sensors and machine vision. According to its manufacturer, Vuatech, a Xinjiang-based agricultural robotics company, the machine can cover up to 2 hectares per hour, an efficiency roughly 120 times that of manual labor. Trials showed that the robotic approach can boost average fields by nearly 600 kilograms per hectare, with a net gain of more than 3,000 yuan, around $44 per hectare, said Liu Hangjing, general manager of Vuatech. For generations, cotton topping has meant back-breaking work in scorching summer heat. Farmers have to walk row by row, snapping off the top of each plant by hand to control height and curb unproductive branches. The job demands careful judgment. Weaker plants need less removed, and stronger ones need more. Manual topping, once the only option, often produced uneven results because of variations in skill and pace, directly affecting yields. The new robot, now in its fourth generation, uses binocular vision cameras and AI algorithms to scan each plant, locate the topping point within milliseconds, and guide its 108 mechanical arms to make the cut. From identification to action, the entire process can mimic the hand technique of experienced cotton farmers. This robot allows us to achieve full mechanization and intelligence across the entire cotton growth cycle, says Xiao Shua, general manager of Zamayos Agricultural Technology, a company based in Shazay, a major cotton producing area in northern Xinjiang. Founded by a group of post 90s entrepreneurs, the firm manages approximately 133 hectares of cotton fields. Zhao said he was impressed by the robot's efficiency, noting that its daily output would require 50 to 60 workers. He added that the topping success rate had exceeded 90%. Before deploying the robot, Zhao's company had already automated irrigation, fertilization, spraying, and weeding using domestically developed Beidou satellite positioning and AI technology. All field operations are managed by just 5 people. Xinjiang's cotton sector is already among the world's most mechanized, with an overall mechanization rate for cultivation and harvesting surpassing 97%. The cotton topping robot is just one example of a broader push into agricultural automation across this region. In recent years, companies, universities, and research institutes have ramped up innovation and R&D efforts in cotton machinery, focusing on precision, efficiency, and intelligence. Last year, a collaborative effort between Xinjiang University and EA Vision, a robotic tech company based in Xinjiang, led to the successful development of a cotton laser topping robot. Robotic technology is getting more mature, said Pei Zemin, a researcher in Xinjiang's Agricultural and Rural Mechanization Development Center. It is not just about cotton, it provides a replicable model for smart agriculture and other crops, accelerating the digital transformation of farming across Xinjiang. So that's the future. And prosperous, yeah. Okay, yeah. Evelina says China China proves that a communist country can be creative and innovative and prosperous. Exactly. Exactly. They are far ahead of everybody else. And their government too, the leaders are engineers. So it's that engineering mindset, being more productive and thinking about everybody. And like they said, they're talking about education, training people for the future. Jobs that have robotics and AI and all. There's they look to the future of what's going to be needed, where people can employ themselves. Everything is always so smart with China. Efficiency. And what's good for everybody. It's so different than the U.S. And speaking of the U.S., here we go to Common Dreams. There he is, Pete Hegseth. House Speaker Mike Johnson um, and Pentagon Secretary Pete Hegseth speak at an event on Capitol Hill on September 3rd, 2025 in Washington. That just talks about the picture there. And this is from Jake Johnson, and it was written today, July 23rd. House GOP, okay, as families struggle to afford groceries. House GOP approves billions more for the illegal war in Iran. So, no concern for the U.S. citizens whatsoever. By voting for this budget resolution, Republicans are saying that this war is more important than lowering Americans' costs. House Republicans on Wednesday approved a 95 billion, that's 95 billion budget framework that would pump more money into US President Donald Trump's illegal war on Iran and push states to adopt restrictions on voting rights, all while Americans struggle to afford groceries and other necessities. Every present House Democrat and just three members of the GOP caucus, Representatives Tom Macy of Kentucky, Warren Davidson of Ohio, and Kevin Kiley of California, voted against the budget measure, which would yet again set in motion the filibuster proof reconciliation process that the Republican majority has used to ram through tax cuts for the rich, of course, a tax on safety net programs, and other unpopular agenda items. The new budget blueprint, which is seen as facing tougher prospects in the narrowly Republican controlled Senate, would provide up to 73 billion dollars in additional funding for the US military, mostly for the war in Iran. The measure also includes $10 billion to prod states to adopt voter ID requirements, a top priority of the Trump administration ahead of the 2026 midterms. Lior Tal, campaign director at the Unrig Our Economy Coalition, said in response to Wednesday's vote that, once again, Republicans in Congress choose to put their unnecessary war in Iran over the American people. It is unconscionable that any member of Congress would vote to put a cent of money towards this war that is raising Americans' cost and costing service members their lives, said Tal. By voting for this budget resolution, Republicans are saying that this war is more important than lowering Americans' costs. It's time for Republicans in Congress to put an end to this seemingly endless war. Analysts have placed the financial cost of the war in Iran at roughly $1,100 per American household so far, accounting for higher prices for energy, groceries, and other essentials. With families across the country reeling from federal food aid cuts implemented under an earlier Republican budget package, a recent poll found that two-thirds of Americans say they would describe the cost of groceries as unaffordable, up from 45% prior to the U.S. assault on Iran. The budget measure that House Republicans adopted on Wednesday would do nothing, would do nothing to alleviate the nation's worsening cost of living crisis, which Trump has repeatedly dismissed as a hoax perpetrated by his political opponents. With grocery bills on the rise and skyrocketing gas prices at the pump, working families are struggling to make ends meet, and Republicans have no plan for them. Republican John Lawson, Democrat in Connecticut, said Wednesday. Okay, the public dollars should be used to support the American people, not double down on this president's failed agenda and foreign wars. Congress needs to cut off funding for the war before more Americans are killed, not write a multi-billion-dollar blank check to the Pentagon. In a separate vote on Wednesday, House Republicans voted to authorize an unprecedented $1.15 trillion. That's $1.15 trillion military budget for the coming fiscal year. Representatives Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota, and Mark Pocan, Democrat of Wisconsin, co-chairs of the Defense Spending Reduction Caucus, said in a joint statement that while millions of Americans are struggling to afford basic necessities, Congress is choosing to authorize over $1 trillion for the Pentagon. Once again, funneling billions of dollars to defense contractors instead of investing in the needs of working people. The American people are sick and tired of funding atrocities abroad and want this war on Iran to end, said Omar Bakan. Yet, year after year, the Pentagon fails its audits and audit with virtually no accountability, while Congress continues to increase military spending. We should be investing in affordable housing, health care, education, and good paying jobs, not bankrolling defense contractors. Absolutely. The people first, America first. Maybe here we should have engineers. Have engineers in the White House, in Congress, in the House and the Senate. Have an engineer mindset like in China. Invest in the people. Plan for the future. Think of the people. It's something that they're just so incapable of here. It's disgusting. Okay, looking to see your comments, and now I am going on to um, it's interesting with India. And this is in Al Jazeera, televising our revolution. India's Gen Z flips Modi's social media game. For 12 years, Modi and his party have dominated Indian social media. Now, youth are using the same platforms against him. And it says here, supporters of India's cockroach Janta Party, CJP, wearing masks, hold placards, and chant slogans during continuing protests demanding the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan over examination paper leaks at Jantar Mantar in New Delhi, India on July 22nd, 2026. And it was a picture by Reuters took the picture. So here we see the picture. We're protesting. And it's by Yasrak Sharma, New Delhi, India. She darted through a sprinting crowd, running from a cloud of tear gas just over her head. Her eyes stung so badly she could barely see, yet she filmed the chaos on her phone. I saw policemen brutally beating up unarmed girls and peaceful children, said Avanshika Singh, who has been turning up for student protests that shut down the national capital, demanding the education minister's resignation. On her return home, the 18-year-old put together a rough cut from the chaos and captioned it on Instagram. Today, we rang Parliament's doorbell and ran. The march to the Indian Parliament on July 20th against serial examination paper leaks brought the nation's capital to a standstill as tens of thousands of protesters occupied central roads leading to the country's corridors of power. More than 100 students were injured in a crackdown by police operating under the direct instructions of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. But since then, Indian internet has turned into a relentless reel of police excesses. Shaky smartphone footage, rapid-fire edits pulsing to hip-hop tracks, and tidal wave of memes and expletives. This is the only thing anyone is talking about. If nothing, we are televising our revolution, Singh, a teenager, told Al Jazeera, standing amid a sea of protesters choking Parliament Street on Wednesday. The entire country today feels the sting of batons and tear gas with us. 12 years ago, Modi rose to power and pioneered in many ways, leveraging social media platforms to reach the masses. Today, Gen Z is flipping his Hindu majoritarian party's dominance on social platforms, weaponizing against it the very tools the Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) has long relied on. Hating Modi is cool on the internet now, after years of criminalizing dissent, she said, before bursting into slogans. Uncle Modi, go back, go back. Evidence of police excess. After the July 20th demonstrations against the government's handling of paper leaks, the police denied all the protesters' allegations and media reports of excess force in the crackdown. But by then, social media was flooded with evidence recorded by the protesting students. A New Delhi police officer thrusting a baton on a female protester's back, usage potentially by a paramilitary force that was deployed alongside the police, of lethal pellet guns for the first time in the national capital. A mother crying and pleading with dozens of police officials, another officer slapping and chasing unarmed students, police officers wearing meta glasses, law enforcement agents planting a damaged car outside a protest strip, and footage where an officer casually trips the students running from tear gas. No sight escapes the cameras at the Jantar Mantar protest strip, where thousands of protesters kept recording round the clock. The visuals from July 20th have prompted protests across India in cities like Mumbai, Bengaluru, Patna, Lucknow, and Aswal. The Cockroach Janta Party, a political pressure group that has been leading the students' protest, has said the demonstrations would continue peacefully until three demands are met. They want Dharmendra Pradhan, the education minister, to resign, for the Modi government to assure that no criminal cases would be pursued against protesters, and for compensation of about $105,000 for families of students who died by suicide due to exam paper leaks and cancellations. Harika Soni, a 19-year-old, stood among the thousands strong crowd that occupied Parliament Street on Wednesday, distributing water bottles to protesters. She did not take part in the July 20th march and did not care much about it either. Then the visuals appeared on her feed. My mother and I cried for 2 hours, watching the videos together at home, she said, adding that her mother had been a staunch supporter of Prime Minister Modi. We hugged each other and come here every day now, she added, now holding her mother's hand as part of a human chain ready to confront government forces if attacked. Leaking any responsibility. It is also a meme fest on the Indian internet. Protesters pose, mock, and tease police personnel stationed near the protest site. Some offer flowers to them while reminding them that the officers only offered baton hits. A stroll through the protest site and nearby roads is likely scrolled on Instagram feed. Posters and graffiti now line central New Delhi. Even when they speak, protesters use language riddled with smart one-liners and mockery of the government. This government is leaking any responsibility towards the youth of this country. Ipshita Gorai, a 20-year-old, told Al Jazeera, Modi, she said, had messed with the wrong generation. There was a lot of arrogance in him, and, you know, teenagers do not tolerate that, bro. Another duo carried the popular Japanese manga One Piece, a symbol adopted by Gen Z protest uh, movements worldwide. A group of friends donned fictional superhero costumes from Marvel's Avengers, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Hulk, sitting together on police barricades, looking into Parliament Street. We, the Gen Z people, are born on and for the internet. We were using Instagram before I could read a clock, said Golari. Mainstream television news channels friendly to Modi have faced accusations of not covering the protest adequately. But young people like Golari rely increasingly on independent and small publications and, even more, on social media. Gen Z is taking it lightly, being funny about it because humor is our coping mechanism, said 18-year-old Shivi Kumar, a friend of Golari at the protest. In the middle of all chaos, somewhere we decided that to rebel, we need to find a way that unites us. The memes are uniting us. On the other hand, social media posts put up by the BJP are spammed by thousands calling for the minister to resign. Flipping the game. In 2014, Modi was among the first world leaders to understand and leverage social media to take his narrative to the masses. The Congress Party, now in opposition, was trounced by Modi's BJP in national elections that year, and has long struggled to keep up with the BJP social media dominance. But with years in power, as India slid in multiple democratic indices, Modi's government faced mounting accusations that it was criminalizing dissent, with several critics jailed for years without a trial. Modi's party also mobilized extensive resources in the last decade in its so-called IT cell, where a bunch of anonymous accounts or creator friendly to the government dox, troll, and delegitimize social media criticism. It is fitting, therefore, analysts say, that the biggest challenge Modi has faced in the street stems from an online joke, after India's Chief Justice casually likened the youth to cockroaches and parasites. The resulting fury led to the formation of the Cockroach Janta Party. Before the cockroach movement, there was an undercurrent of memes from anonymous accounts, masked people mocking the government, said Anurag Minis Burma, a cultural critic and author of The Great Indian Brain Rot. In a post-ironical world, anything said with irony travels faster, and irony becomes a central feature of the internet during this kind of protest, he said. The pent-up anger found a channel at Jantar Mantar, allowing youth to do their thing, speak in their language. The most remarkable turnaround for Verma, he said, has been the unmasking of critics at the protest, where demonstrators ridicule and mock Modi, erasing the fear. Verma argued that the Modi government had crushed and criminalized protests by labeling them anti nationals and breaking them into sections. The Gen Z protesters already identifying themselves ridiculously enough. They are cockroaches, he said. It becomes a single identity, and that becomes easier to penetrate the virality zone. Some are creating the popular memes from Nepal, Bangladesh, and Hong Kong uprisings, he told Al Jazeera. The criticism and hate directed at Modi in the capital is not only acceptable now, but even cool. Modi, in a tacit acknowledgement of the power of the social media wave that's against his government on Thursday morning, offered his first comments on the student protest on X. Nothing is more important than the welfare and future of our youth, he wrote, before mentioning that his government had set up fast track courts to punish those behind the paper leaks. But the CJP's leader, Abhijit Dipke, was quick with his repost on X, playing on Modi's own words overlaid on a photo of Education Minister Pradhan. Dipke wrote, "Hi, my name is nothing." Whoa, it's interesting. Let's see. And then it comments here. Yep. And as Evelina says, sadly, police excess in India as per viral footage. Yep. Wonder why they call themselves Cockroach Party, or is it Party? Yeah, yeah. Well, further down in the article, that's what they were called. So they used that as their name because that's what they were being labeled: cockroaches and parasites. So here we have the uprising in India, and India. We don't have the BJP party with the extremist. The violence also against Muslims, and them just wanting India to be a certain way. So the right wing is there's been so many problems with that. And I read last night about with India that the Trump administration is going to be doing things differently where India is concerned because they're afraid that India is going to become too powerful. This is what they say. Because with the assistance, with the trade with China and all, how China's becomes, is so powerful that the U.S. should have done something sooner. They're just acting regretful because the U.S. doesn't like to see other countries being powerful. But the thing with India is that India's always been independent. India doesn't just India, like we said, is part of BRICS. They trade with who they want to trade with. They don't lock themselves in with the U.S. India's always been independent, but I do think it would be good if they get rid of the extreme right, the Hindutva, um, just all that violence. Okay, and let me see here. Let's see if I can go over to X and bring us over to X and see what's going on over there. But it would be interesting to continue to follow India and see how the youth are changing things, and hopefully they can improve things and have a new government in. I mean, around the world, the U.S. Please, we are such a problem. We need youth, and not just these old people, older generation, and we need the young. Okay. And right now, I'm just getting the X up right now. Take this down. Yeah, I'm wondering what happened to Harsh, because Harsh was supposed to be here. Yeah, I called him twice and there was no answer, so I don't know what happened. If he fell asleep or I just don't know. Okay, and this is Quds News QNN, and I just wanted updates from QNN. Okay, today in Bristol City in the UK, hundreds of protesters gathered outside an Elbit Systems facility, calling on the British government to halt military support for Israel. That's good news. You just the British government, like we said, they've got the new leader. Will they be powerful enough to, stay out of Israel's business? Avoid all things, Israel. And here, Israeli occupation forces abducted former Palestinian detainee Uman Abu Hayat after storming his home in the town of Beit Farouk, east of Nablus, in the occupied West Bank. And as I've said before, this is around the clock. Them raiding people's homes and kidnapping people. And here, hours after his wedding, Israeli occupation forces abducted former Palestinian detainee Anas Akaf Ishtaya after storming his home in the village of Salem, east of Nablus in the occupied West Bank. See, this is terrible. They've been doing this, either killing people or kidnapping them after they get married. Israeli occupation forces stormed the town of Beit Farik, east of Nablus, in the occupied West Bank. See, this is around the clock. Every single day they're doing this. And the world is silent. I should say the world leaders are silent. And here, and every year we've showed this before, from year to year, at least 2,300 extremist colonial Israeli settlers desecrated Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and occupied Jerusalem during the so-called anniversary of the destruction of the temple, under heavy protection from Israeli forces. The incursion included religious rituals and chants, while Palestinian worshippers faced restrictions and were prevented from freely accessing the site. Year after year they do this. And it's a violation of the status quo agreement. And here, Israeli occupation army detonates residential buildings east of the Al Zaytown neighborhood, southeast of Gaza City. Blowing up buildings, that's what they do, and the world leaders do nothing. They condemn. They condemn all the time. Well, condemning doesn't stop the Zionist regime from doing what they're doing. U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. Saudi civil nuclear deal would only be approved if Saudi Arabia joins the normalized deal relations with Israel. And now he's adding that. Before he didn't say that. Israeli war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the condition, calling Saudi normalization a historic leap for peace. Yeah. Saudi Arabia has not responded, but it has repeatedly stated that it will not establish ties with Israel without a clear and irreversible path toward Palestinian statehood, with the eastern occupied part of Jerusalem as its capital. Yes, they've said that over and over and over again. And Trump just blabbers this, blabbers that. He says what he wants to say, but he doesn't. The key part of the issue, Saudi Arabia will not get involved in any deals unless there's a Palestinian state. And Israel keeps saying they want normalization. Well, you're not going to get normalization with anyone. And all Israel wants is the Greater Israel Plan, so it's just ridiculous. Multiple Palestinians were reported injured after Israeli aircraft bombed the Al Maghazi camp in the central Gaza Strip. And the world's not stopping it. Israel violates every single ceasefire agreement. They violate it and nothing gets done. And here, U.S. Representative Adam Smith said on Tuesday during an interview with Breaking Points that he reiterated his support for a two-state solution, but acknowledged that continued Israeli settlement expansion has made its implementation increasingly difficult. He also rejected a one-state solution, arguing that it would effectively end Israel as a Jewish state because Palestinians would eventually become the demographic majority. Well, the situation here is it's not difficult when they talk about Jewish settlement expansion. It's a matter of having the Jews move out. This is not your territory. Pack up and leave. Go back to your area, your designated area in Israel. It's not that difficult. Have them pack up and leave. And that's much nicer than what Israel's doing to the Palestinians. And why they always act like it's so difficult to have um, Zionists leave, move. If when you went there, you knew what you were doing, you knew what the intention was, and you knew it was illegal. So go back into Israel proper and or wherever you came from. But the point is, you can't live in the Palestinian state. Basically, unless you want to live there, but it's Palestine, it's not Israel. Israeli tanks opened fire towards the eastern areas of Gaza City. And this Israel should be held accountable for this. They're supposed to be out of Gaza. According to international law, they were supposed to be out of Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the West Bank. They're supposed to be out. This is all Palestinian territories. It's illegal for them to be there, but nobody holds them accountable. The ICJ, it was the July 24th, I believe, of last year, they were supposed to be out. but they're not leaving. And no one's making them leave. And that's the problem. Israeli occupation makes Al Aqsa Mosque available to Jewish settlers only while shutting the gates, banning prayers, expelling worshippers, and allowing entry of Muslims over 80 years old only. Uh, there's a status quo agreement. Jordan is supposed to be the one that's in charge of it, make sure it keeps going, but Jordan's not doing anything. No one's doing anything to stop Israel. They're, in violation of international law, of status quo agreements. What they've been doing is illegal, and no one is holding them accountable. Okay, today in Glasgow, demonstrators at the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games commemorated the 1,009 Palestinian athletes killed by Israel during its ongoing genocide in Gaza. Yes, 1,009 Palestinian athletes were killed by Israel during its ongoing genocide in Gaza. Horrible. It was good they're commemorating them. All those lives. It's horrible. Okay, Israeli occupation forces detained two Palestinians while storming Kalandia refugee camp, northern occupied Jerusalem. Yep, that's what they're doing, and no one's stopping them. No one's stopping Israel, and this is a major problem. And we've said that for years. No one's stopping them, and it is a problem. Okay, and the UK police reopens war crimes probe into Britons who fought for Israel in Gaza. According to oops, I think I hear a beep. Oh, here's Hosh.
I forgot we even had to do a podcast today, but yeah, I mean, I'm just going through some of the things you're talking about. Yeah, it is interesting seeing the uprisings against Modi. I don't know what that means, but that is an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, I thought so too. Gen
Yeah,
Z has had enough, and there were some suicides too with the leak of exams,
yeah,
and that's horrible. But I'm glad the youth are stepping up.
yeah,
And something that's got me too is that, well, the U.S. just doesn't understand the situation with India to begin with. But they say they don't want to be working much with India anymore because they're afraid with like the rising with China that the U.S. felt they should have done something sooner. And China's extremely powerful. That now they're concerned with India. Now, to me, India, and as you're the one that's educated me a lot with India, but like India's always been independent.
yeah.
So
Well, ever since the British left, India always was on the side of U.S. But always, even during the Cold War, the India was always neutral between the U.S. and Russia. So,
right, right. So India's if the U.S. thinks that India could somehow go down or something or not be powerful, um, the U.S. is mistaken because they're a member of BRICS, and like you said, they deal with other countries. They just don't rely on the U.S.
well, I mean, it doesn't help that Modi's kind of against free speech either.
Right.
So people do get tired of that stuff too. It's like I mean, I used to remember India before he took over. They weren't this like, yeah, you'd have protests. Yeah, you'd have protests. Yeah, you'd have your battles and, wars and whatever, but it wasn't like, there's certain events, but it wasn't like this. Now it's just,
Yeah, so yeah, and it was good the kids did the right thing. You know, the kids taking advantage of the internet. You know, Modi used it to get in power. You know, that whole thing to get into every household with, social media. And the youth are using it, getting the message out with the protesting and the violence and everything else so that everybody can see. They've got everything on film.
yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I mean, it's just, I mean, the whole thing is just strange.
Hmm. Yeah, it's strange that why would the education person's in charge, he went and he leaked exams. Why would he leak the exam results for?
That I don't know. But,
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, stuff like that in university has been going on for years. It's just now it's gotten crazy. Now it's just a
Right.
lot more, you know, intense.
Right.
That stuff's happening all the time.
Hmm. Right. And something that's private now, even if something's leaked, like say years ago when you didn't have the internet and stuff, but now you got the internet, you know, the social media, that something that's private is leaked out everywhere.
Yeah.
That sense of privacy.
Well, I mean, the thing with the education system with India in general is like I've noticed this for years. If you're not like at the top of your class or you're not well connected, you're kind of screwed. Like,
Mm.
like you're kind of screwed when it comes to education. Like it was so like yeah, it's like a strict education system and all that, but it's not like. But at the same time, it's not just like just because you study well doesn't mean you'll be successful. People complain about how in America education's a joke, but over there it's far more competitive.
Oh, okay.
Far more competitive. I mean, here it's just the education's just dumb because you don't really learn much of anything. But there, it's like very vastly competitive. So when they see stuff like this happen, it's kind of nuts. I mean, the way we treat extracurricular activities, the way they treat education,
Okay.
it's really strict. But yeah, it's just a hyper competitive bubble to begin with. So anytime something like this happens, it's gonna go nuts.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, the youth were calling themselves the cockroach party
yeah,
because they were called cockroaches and parasites. So they used it to their advantage.
well, might as well.
Oh, Evelina says out of control. Yeah, 'cause what I was just talking about with Quds. Um, Let me see. Out of control settlers and IDF heard of Israelis sent to bunkers for next 48 hours, fearful of Iran. Well, Israelis so abusive of Palestinian elders. Yes, they are. It's just around the clock. You know, whenever you go over to the Israeli or the Palestinian, the information, it's just around the clock. The Israeli occupation forces are around the clock raiding the West Bank, kidnapping people, bombing places, helping thugs burn up crops and um, beat up people, burn houses. I mean, the IOF's there while thugs are committing violence, and then they're committing the IOF is committing violence on their own, going through the towns around the clock, and then in Gaza, the bombing of the Gazans, and I mean, it's maddening, and it just goes on and on and on every single day, and then you have world leaders doing nothing. Then with Al-Aqsa Mosque, and we talked about that several years ago.
Well, I mean, the answer at this point, I might as well be a fill in the blank sentence. Israel is so abusive of Palestinian elders. Israel is so abusive of young children. Israel is so abusive of the U.S. government. Israel is so abusive of Western society. Israel is so abusive of victims of child trafficking. Israel so Israel is so abusive of Palestinians. Israel is so abusive of Muslims around the world. I mean, Israel is so abusive of Christians. I mean, at this point, it must be a freaking fill in the blank sentence.
Yes.
Who don't they abuse?
Right. And then what gets me all the time is this condemnation. We condemn, we condemn, we condemn, we condemn. Well, stop condemning and do something.
Yeah, it's kind of getting to the point where people are starting to have a positive impact, positive reaction to Hitler. It's very alarming.
This is where it's sad when society's in that direction, and society's looking at, they're going through history to analyze things more.
Yeah.
We're told certain things, now they're questioning.
Yep.
It's just a horrible place that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Oh. I guess I can go over to a different site, but here, I'll just put this up here. See, this is the whole thing. With the Prisoners Defense Center, another doctor is, in bad condition, his health. It has the Palestinian Prisoners Defense Center warned of a severe deterioration in the health condition of a detained Gaza doctor, Murad al-Kuga, who reportedly lost around 45 kilograms and is suffering from injuries and illnesses worsened by torture, starvation, and medical neglect. And it's every single day, and no one's doing anything where Israel is concerned. I mean, these are clear violations of international law, and it's being ignored.
That's because they can't do anything with them. They're that worthless. Like the entire government, the entire Western society is basically a slave of Israel. And Eastern culture, they just, are afraid of what's going to happen to them from the West if they go at Israel. So what do you expect? I mean, it's horrible, but I mean, this is not surprising. I wish it would change because it's kind of retarded. I'm tired of living in a world like this, but whatever.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Al Mayadeen. There he is, the nut job. Thousands of Israeli settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque. And they were doing this, before, this is the reason why, with October 7th, they called it Al-Aqsa Flood, because of all the attacks on Al-Aqsa Mosque. And there they are again. Let me put this from the beginning. Now this is promotion, and then they'll complain if someone reacts to this.
Expect from those people are a bunch of sympathy-seeking psychopaths.
Yeah,
I mean,
and when
that's
I see the kids, I feel bad because these kids are being brainwashed.
yeah.
You know, and then of course Itamar Ben-Gvir leading the pack.
God, when are they gonna arrest him?
Yeah. When are they
Why don't
gonna?
we just send all the Zionists to a labor camp?
Ugh,
Just do that. You could end all the world's problems. No.
I don't know. Oh, here's a Japanese revolutionary Kozo Akamoto has passed away at the age of 78. It says Okamoto was a member of the Japanese Red Army. He took part in the 1972 Lod Airport operation and was one of the most prominent international supporters of the Palestinian cause. Okay, let me go to a different site. Is this like posting from 11 hours ago? You're like, well, what's going on? Oh, here's 8 minutes ago. The head of Iran's Parliament, National Security and Foreign Policy Commission, Ibrahim Aziz, warned the United Kingdom over its role in supporting, you know, the U.S. military operations in Iran. Well, that's it. Trump called up the new leader there in the UK, asking about using the Diego Garcia site. So Iran's like telling them, and they've said it over and over again. You start using different military sites against us, we are going to respond. I mean, and that is a normal reaction. If I am going to be attacked, I'm going to respond. That's normal. And the U.S. launches the 13th consecutive night of aggression on Iran. I mean, this is sickening. It really is. It gets me sick, the whole thing.
Whole situation, the whole clusterfuck is sick. But I mean, I don't know what else you can say or do. That's why when I see some of these topics, I don't even know how much how you can even talk for an hour and a half on them. I'm like,
Well, you know, well, I was talking with before. I was talking about the Common Dreams article, talking about the trillions of dollars for the being sent to the Pentagon. And meanwhile, grocery prices are high, gas prices are high. Nothing, where the people are concerned. And I just got done reading the China Daily, and China's, where the future is concerned. And there's certain jobs are not going to be um, there anymore for people. So you're training people for the jobs of the future, and planning. And here, the U.S. just doesn't even give a shit. They talked about those cotton machine tippers. They have the machines there in China. So there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be working in the fields anymore. So China recognizes things, and there they are training people for the future and looking at technology where they, in different areas that they look to bring people up for, the well-being of society and of everybody, and we know that everybody has health care, everybody has a roof over their head, making sure there's enough jobs for people, jobs of the future, and always looking ahead of time. And the U.S. does nothing of that. It's always like, what can we put into the pockets of the billionaires and screw everybody else over? So when I go reading from China first and then coming over to the U.S., it's like, it's terrible. It's like the U.S. doesn't give a shit about its people at all.
Sadly, that's been rather obvious for a long time. So
Yeah,
I don't know what else to tell you about that. So
you're right.
it's horrific, but it's not surprising if that makes
It's
any sense.
not. It's not. There they are. And it's so interesting. Well, they've got, and I know we've said it before on the show, that their leadership, in their government, the people, most of the people are engineers. So they have a completely different mindset.
Yeah,
We just got a bunch of, I don't know, everybody here, the money grubbers. Everything's about,
many, many, many. Yeah, you
yeah.
know. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know what to say outside of that. So
There's Trump. Trump eyes Iranian assets to cover U.S. maritime escalation losses. He's such a bullshit artist. He really is. Everything's bullshit with him.
now he's a bullshit person. So it explains the bullshit artist.
Yeah,
Everyone forgets he was a bad businessman before he became president.
exactly.
I mean, I hate to say it, but Trump's life is so terrible that his term as a president is far better than anything he ever did as a businessman.
Right, he's got everybody else,
Right. I mean, he's
propping him
really
up.
like nothing special at all.
No,
I mean, all he's done is fuck over the right for the next 30 years
yeah,
and
that's what
screw
he's
up
done.
America for the next decade. So, nope, that's great. Screw it.
What's this? I'm going to Times of Israel, see what they have to say. This is something too with India, with Trump. Trying to, how they just rattle up friction with stuff. But anyway,
Great.
the new Pakistan military chief Asim Munar leveraged joint oil transport venture with the IRGC chief Ahmed Bandidi to secure agreements between Iran and Saudi,
Yeah.
under which Tehran agreed to halt attacks against Gulf Kingdom.
Right.
I don't know. See, the whole thing is like people are saying with Pakistan getting involved and stuff. Yeah, everybody uses everybody.
They do. They absolutely do.
What's this? A group of college students shoved into a hotel conference room in Jerusalem on a recent Monday evening, settling in to hear a lecture about modern Israeli history after a day-long visiting the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum and the Mount Herzl Military Cemetery. Yeah, it's just to keep people brainwashed.
Yeah.
3 days into what was, for most students, their first visit to Israel, they had already taken in a lot. There would be more eye opening lessons for the 15 non Jewish student leaders from the University of California, Los Angeles, who came on a 10-day visiting sponsored by the Maccabee Task Force. The trip was designed to help the school's estimated 3,000 Jewish build allies on a campus that has been one of America's most high profile flashpoints for protest following the Hamas atrocities of October. See, this is anti Zionism still ravages UCLA.
A mass, a mass.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is why like white nationalism is on the rise, and I'm really not upset about it. I mean, it's hard to be upset about like white nationalists having. It's hard to be upset about like the rise of Jewish hatred when this sort of garbage keeps being printed. So, you know,
yeah. So now they are taking students to non Jewish students to Israel. And
why? So they get spit on and beaten up. God, these people are such morons. All right. Well, I think that's enough for me. I mean, outside of the Chinese having AI, we all know the Chinese love their totalitarian states. So I don't know what to say about that. So say
Oh,
about all that. But yeah, no, the Israelis are horrible.
okay, here. This is it. As two men are stabbed with a screwdriver on a New York City street in a suspected anti-Semitic attack, at least one of whom is visibly Jewish. The Manhattan Shamrib neighborhood watch group says both victims were Jewish and one was attacked after leaving a synagogue in the area. The incident takes place on the Tisha B'Av holiday. New York City Speaker Julie Menin says the incident appears to be anti-Semitic, although there is not yet confirmation from the police. The police have a person of interest in custody. I don't know. See,
You know,
some
yeah. If nobody died, then I don't know what. I mean, if nobody died, then I don't know what we could say. I mean, as long as everyone's all right, I suppose. But
right.
like, what is the whole? But like, I don't even know what they would do.
See, I don't even know if things are real or
No,
not.
I don't either. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it's real. And for all we know, the person who stabbed him could have also been Jewish.
That's what I was thinking. That group that goes around because they want to.
Right. I mean, we live in a country. We live in a world where you have a Canadian business owner who's Jewish vandalizing his own building to raise like anti-Semitic, then claim it's anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I mean, to claim he's a victim of anti-Semitism so he can garner sympathy and money. I mean, the whole thing is stupid. All right, anyway, I'm sorry for being late, but I'm gonna get going. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you for stopping in.
of course, yeah. But yeah, I mean, as for the Chinese, I mean, what do you expect? The Chinese want to be Israel. Russia wants to be America, and China wants to be Israel. That's why I have to be careful with all this. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one thing, like I say, I like the fact that Chinese, at least they're taking care of their people. They're looking to take care of the people.
that's true. They won't give you your rights, but they'll take care of everything else. All right. So see you.
Okay. Thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
that's fun.
And here, Jewish worshippers ascend Temple Mount on Tisha B'Av prayer and seen here performing the priestly blessings in a massive departure from the status quo with Jordan, which ostensibly administers the site. Well, that's it. It's just the status quo agreement. That's what has me. If you have agreements, why have agreements if you're not going to make sure that they're in place? And here's Netanyahu wants to focus the election on the ostensible unsuitability of anyone but him to lead Israel. Well, that's what he always does. But his main rival is increasingly seen as a better alternative, serious about the national interests, neither slick nor cynical, and untainted by the worst leadership failure in the country's history. Well, like many people have said, he's behind everything. He wants to stay in power, so he wants forever wars. And we said that already with Trump. After the nuke deal already signed, Trump insists its conditions on Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords. And that's a lot of BS. Okay. And here, Israel acts to ease Palestinian banking crisis it helped create. Yeah, yeah, because you have Smotrich there. Israel acts to ease Palestinian bank crisis it helped create, but is it moving too late? The Palestinian Monetary Authority is holding a press conference in Ramallah Thursday titled "The Breaking Point," sounding an alarm before the collapse. Yeah, because Israel's not sending over the money that's supposed to be sent over, the taxes. It's planned. It's a planned act by Smotrich for the Palestinian territory to collapse. That's his plan. Dr. Shuki Friedman today, as in times, ideologues will risk civil war to thwart compromise. Fortunately, most of the nation thinks they're wrong. Dr. Shuki Friedman is the CEO of the Jewish People Policy Institute and a law lecturer at the Peres Academic Center. He is the former chair of the Sanction Committee against Iran. It has here the post on the blog. Okay, third parties. So that's just an article in the Times of Israel. Zealotry, not baseless hatred, will lead to Israel's collapse. Today, as in ancient times, ideologues will risk civil war to thwart compromise. And well, Netanyahu, he's the one behind all, I would say the biggest one when it comes to the collapse of Israel. To save his own skin, to be in power, he brought the right-wing ideologues in, the extremists in. And he's the one behind October 7th and everything else. It's all about him staying in power. As the Israeli workplace software Mondays.com is cutting as many as 620 employees, or 20% of its workforce, as it remodels its strategy and operations to adapt to the era of artificial intelligence and automation. And you wonder, did they have a plan in place for the employees like China plans? Did they plan? What about the employees? Where are they going to work? Legendary Israeli television anchor and documentarian Ham Yavin, the Jewish state's first TV host, who for decades was the face and voice of the evening broadcast of what had been the country's only channel, died Wednesday at the age of 93. Veteran news anchor Chaim Yavin, Israel's Mr. Television, dies at 93. Man donates kidney to brother of man who saved his life in 2002 terror attack, Times of Israel. Everyone who hears this story gets chills. Anat Briga, transplant coordinator at Pilot Beilinson Hospital, said in a statement. And if you want to read more, it's the Times of Israel. A father forgives the friend who accidentally killed his daughter, inspiring others to reconcile. In memory of Charlotte Herzberg, remembered for her infectious smile and boundless energy, more than 2,600 people have now committed to letting go of grudges and reconciling arguments, according to the website Udi Herzberg, Charlotte's father, created. Herzberg is making a new push to commemorate his daughter's legacy through Unity ahead of the Tisha B'Av holiday this week, which marks the downfall of the First and Second Temples, which some root in communal strife. That's the Times of Israel. Okay, I think that's about it. It's getting late. Let me see something over here. Let me see anything on Press TV. Okay. 39 minutes ago, they posted Iran Foreign Minister Arghashi warns compromised U.S. officials against mindless aggression. And it has here Operation Ops Nassau 2 and Iran's retaliatory strikes against U.S. military assets on July 23rd. And it's just horrible. It's horrible because Trump just, him and Hegg said, you attack and people are going to respond. I mean, it's just so horrible. All the lives injured, lost. I mean, it's just terrible. Iran, Iraq signed 4 cooperation agreements, deepened strategic partnership. This was an article by Yosef Ramazani. Um, it was posted 6 hours ago. It's a feature article. It says Dark Nights for U.S. radars. Iran's precision strikes cripple U.S. air defense network across West Asia. And, this doesn't have to be. They're responding because, the U.S. is the aggressor. As Iran's Foreign Minister Sayed Abbas Aghashi arrives in Kurdistan aboard the MENAB 168 plane, paying tribute to the 168 Iranian children martyred in the U.S. bombing of an elementary school in MENAB. This is, with the U.S. attack and the U.S. Army's attack on pilgrims. Iran has struck and destroyed the U.S. Special Electronic Warfare Unit at the Al Udeid camp in Kuwait, and by the striking of the barracks of this unit's personnel, killed and wounded a number of them. And this is just Trump. Trump and Hegseth. Every time the U.S. strikes Iran is going to respond, and that's just a normal reaction. It's just horrible, the whole situation. It says here the enemy must pay the price for breach of promises, and this time we will not allow America to use deceptive ceasefires to replenish its oil and ammunition stockpiles, and then resume attacks once again. Of course, the U.S. uses deception. And here's another by David Rovics. He writes U.S. violations of the Memorandum of Understanding. Not surprising. War against Iran to spell end of U.S. imperialism. I mean, is that what Trump's intentions are? I mean, you just wonder. Let me just pull up here, see if there's anything new. Okay. Let me see anything with Telazor, the Global South. Okay. The acting president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, is holding a high-level meeting with a delegation from the Inter-American Development Bank, led by Anabel Gonzalez, Vice President for Countries and Regional Integration, Andre Soares, Head of the IDB Office, and Miguel Coronado, General Manager for Andean Countries. Okay. Before Trump's ill-fated 2025 tariffs, 12.1% of Brazil's exports went to the U.S. Brazil diversified, and today that number has fallen to 9.4%. My story on the countermeasures Brazil is rolling out to buffer its export sector from the predatory U.S. tariffs for Telazor. So there's an article by Brian Mayer, Telazor English. Spanish midfielder Rodrigo Hernandez, who currently plays for the Manchester City, has reportedly reached an agreement on personal terms to join Real Madrid in upcoming transfer windows. According to recent reports, the agreement between the Spanish player and Real Madrid calls for a long-term contract that would run through the end of the 2029 to 2030 season. If the deal between the two clubs goes through, the midfielder would return to the Spanish capital to take charge of the midfield for Real Madrid, strengthening the Madrid club's long-term sporting project. Okay. The president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, is presiding this Thursday over the promotion ceremony for officers and professional troops assigned to the Presidential Guard of Honor and the General Directorate of Military Counterintelligence, who are being promoted to the next higher rank and grade. The military ceremony is taking place at the Simón Bolívar Convention Center in Caracas and is being attended by the Minister of Popular Power for Defense, General Gustavo González López, the commander of the Presidential Honor Guard, Major General Henry Navas Bombas, the director of the DGCIM Air Force Colonel Eduardo Gomez Larraz, and members of the Superior General Staff of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces. What else? India hosted the 16th BRICS Health Ministers meeting in the city of Chennai under the theme Building Resilience, Innovation, Cooperation, and Sustainability. The meeting brought together ministers, heads of delegations, and public health experts from Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and Indonesia as part of India's presidency of the bloc in 2026. Particip- Participants discussed joint strategies to strengthen the health systems of member countries and agreed on avenue for cooperation in response to health emergencies through mechanisms for shared innovation. Yeah, I just really like BRICS. What is this? A news bit. It says Venezuela, La Guerra has already begun to rise again amid the tragedy caused by the seismic Dopplet. Several businesses have reopened. Let me see what they're saying.
After the twin earthquakes on June 24, La Guaira state experienced an economic recovery, demonstrating the country's resilience. Our colleague Miguel Ramirez has more information.
La Guaira has already begun to rise again. Amid the tragedy caused by the seismic doublet, several businesses reopened their doors.
As my family taught me, my father and uncle, we must keep pushing forward and helping the people of La Guaira, offering them good prices. We are moving ahead and working alongside our community here in La Guaira.
According to official figures, economic activity in affected areas has recovered by 56%. In unaffected zones, however, the figure is 90%, symbolizing resilience.
The following day, we reopened and gathered everything we had. We collected the items that had fallen from the shelves and threw away the broken ones. The next day, we opened again and began serving the public. We live in Caracas. We brought merchandise and continued selling to help supply the area because many businesses were badly affected by the situation. We stayed selling merchandise and helping people.
Business owners in this disaster zone share a common purpose: to serve the people even during difficult times.
We are here after the devastating June 24 earthquake that affected the entire state. This location remains standing, though it has several non-structural issues. Rather, materials fell after the earthquake. We spent the first few days organizing, fixing, and repairing some of the damage inside the store. The community requested certain services from us, and we decided to reopen. Our goal is to continue providing services to the area, such as printing and photocopying, as well as selling school supplies.
Of the 7,000 registered businesses, 1,072 are still operating. This ensures a direct supply to communities, easing logistical and social pressures. In coordination with the banking system, the national government has launched a financing strategy to support inventory replacement and machinery repairs for affected businesses that are able to recover. The goal is to strengthen the local economy. With Jose Luis Briceño on camera, Michelle Ramirez from La Guaira, Venezuela for Telesur.
Just good that they've got businesses
After the
going.
twin earthquakes on June 24, the White State experienced an economic recovery, demonstrating the country's resilience. Our
Okay, and here,
colleague Miguel Ramirez has more information.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has arrived in Cholpon-Ata, Kyrgyzstan, for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) Council of Foreign Ministers meeting. Upon arrival, Lavrov was greeted with traditional hospitality ahead of key diplomatic talks with regional counterparts. Cuba. The Central Bank of Cuba announced new measures to promote digital payments and regulate cash use, which remains the primary means of payment on the island. Here, Iran and Iraq signed four agreements in Tehran on Thursday to promote land transportation. The Israeli-Conakry-Baghdad railway line, the twinning of their capitals, and administrative modernization. Iran and Iraq signed strategic agreements to strengthen energy ties and bilateral trade. And here we go with Brazil. The Supreme Court authorized the federal police to investigate allegations of fraud related to the financing of a biographical film about former President Jair Bolsonaro, who remains in prison for attempting a coup d'etat. Justice Andre Mendonca, who is overseeing the case on judicial secrecy, granted the federal police's request and authorized the opening of the investigation with the approval of the prosecutor's office. Authorities will now seek to determine whether the film Dark Horse, which has not yet been scheduled for release in Brazil and is based on the life of the far-right leader was financed with funds from a banker imprisoned for fraud and whether it received public funding. In May, the news outlet Intercept Brazil reported that Daniel Vocaro, then the owner of Banco Master and now in pretrial detention, had agreed to pay US $24 million for the production of Dark Horse. Of that amount, about $12 million was dispersed between February and May of 2025. Intercept Brazil also revealed the close relationship between Bolsonaro and Bolsonaro's eldest son, Senor Flavio Bolsonaro, who intends to lead the Brazilian right wing and run in October's presidential election. Huh. Yeah, I haven't heard about that for a while. And 6 hours ago, the Venezuela Rise Again initiative for reconstruction. Okay, let's listen in here.
As in Venezuela, reconstruction efforts remain underway across the country as part of the government's nationwide recovery plan. Our correspondent brings us these more details from one of the buildings currently under reconstruction in the capital.
Hello, studios. How are you? I'm coming to you from downtown Caracas, particularly inside one of the buildings in which the crews of the government offices in charge of the reconstruction of the affected buildings after the earthquakes of June 24th are at work building and repairing the damages affected by the seismic event. We are at one of the apartment buildings that hold 170 apartments. This structure was categorized as yellow. That means that it suffered damages, but not structural damages. Actually, we were just talking to the engineers that are leading this works. They were telling us that all the structural elements behaved as they should. So there's no structural damage in terms of anything that would compromise the structure as a whole. But of course, there were damages to the walls, the windows, doors, all of the outside elements in which they are now working and repairing. More than that, they are actually applying new technologies, particularly to the walls, so that they will be even more resistant to another seismic event, in the possibility that this could happen again in the future. This is one of the leading elements that is being incorporated into these reconstruction works, as was announced by the government in this plan that is called Venezuela Renace, or Venezuela Rises Again, and has to do with the reconstruction process. We are right now in Caracas, the capital, but this is also happening across the country, particularly in the most affected states, for example, in La Guaira. This is all for now, but we will have more information. I go back to you now.
Okay. Okay, and what else? The U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York held a hearing to establish a schedule for the proceedings against Venezuelan President Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's a violation of international law. It's disgusting. They shouldn't even be there. It's just the Trump administration wants to take over Venezuela. Okay. And it has that acting President Delcy Rodriguez met with UN resident coordinator Gianluca Rampolla and his team in Caracas to coordinate support for the National Recovery and Assistance Program. Venezuelan authorities expressed gratitude for the UN system's solidarity and ongoing assistance to families affected by the recent twin earthquakes as reconstruction efforts continue. And Colombia celebrated the 216th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence with traditional military and police parades nationwide. And the Mexican consulate in Orlando asked the Florida Highway Patrol to determine responsibility for the death of Juan Coronilla, a 28-year-old father of two. Coronilla died during a U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement ICE operation on July 14th in St. Augustine. The Mexican man was struck by a truck after fleeing on foot from the ICE agents during a Department of Homeland Security operation. He had a tourist visa. He had been in the United States for 3 weeks and spent about 2 days in Florida, said his wife Jessica Alamila, who traveled to Florida to seek assistance when repatriating his body. The Department of Homeland Security said the Florida Highway Patrol and Homeland Security investigations are investigating the incident. The Foreign Affairs Ministry will continue to closely monitor this case and reaffirm its commitment to using all consular, legal, and diplomatic instruments at its disposal to protect the rights of Mexican nationals abroad, the Mexican consulate in Orlando had stated. This whole thing with ICE is horrible. Okay, this is Venezuela. Hector Rodriguez, the Minister of Social and Territorial Socialism, said the government will launch a special personalized educational support program for children and adolescents who were seriously injured during the June earthquakes. Andy Burnham, the new leader of the Labour Party, took office as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom after being tasked by King Charles III to form a government. And of course, here we go with Trump. President Trump, Donald Trump's administration announced new tariffs on 60 countries. I mean, he's just destroying the world. That's what he does. Okay, so I'm going to be reading these. Okay. Middle East, 6 United Nations special rapporteurs denounced Israel's intensification of hostilities in Lebanon, where Zionist forces have killed more than 4,300 people and wounded 12,000. Did they denounce, they condemn, but nothing gets done. Cuba recovered historical documents stolen from the National Archives and returned from the United States. The reinstituted heritage includes the 1897 Constitution of La Lieja, as well as manuscript letters and documentation related to General Maximo Gomez, the first president of the Republic, Tomas Estrada Palma, the Chancellor of the Dignity, Raul Garcia, and the Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro Ruz. The restitution was confirmed by authorities from the archival and criminal investigation system, who emphasized the need to verify authenticity before delivery. Yenso Tomas Brito, Lieutenant Colonel and head of the Specialized Documentology Unit of the General Directorate of Criminal Investigation of the Ministry of the Interior, stated, "It is the Constitution of La Lieja, which was stolen from the National Archives along with other historical documents." The official explained that it was a lengthy process that began with the analysis of digital documents and culminated with the arrival of the originals and other previously unpublished materials. Tomas Brito added that the materials were delivered already authenticated, including signatures, handwriting samples, and reconstruction paper, to validate the recovered materials. An exhaustive comparison of signatures was conducted using the archives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MINREX, and the Office of Historical Affairs of the Council of State. Wow, Cuba recovers stolen historical documents returned from the U.S. And here, Venezuela, in La Guerra, Children's Day celebrations feature special activities so the youngest could enjoy themselves despite the difficult situation the state is facing. And then there's the Zamfara Civil Society Coalition, ZASCON, confirmed that at least 40 people, including women and children, were kidnapped in attacks by armed bandits in Nigeria's Zamfara state. At least 40 people kidnapped by armed bandits in Nigeria. And in Mexico, it says President Claudia Sheinbaum addressed potential U.S. Section 301 tariffs, noting that Mexico's economy ministry has presented arguments against imposing significant duties on Mexican products. Sheinbaum confirmed she will receive U.S. Ambassador Greer at the National Palace to discuss ongoing trade relations and reciprocal measures. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez visited Algeria 6 years after his last visit, following more than 3 years of a standstill in trade and diplomatic relations. And acting President Delcy Rodriguez's administration announced the launch of the Unified Housing Registry at temporary camps in Caracas. This measure aims to conduct a comprehensive, reliable census of families whose homes were destroyed or damaged in the June 24th earthquakes. For this census, authorities will count each affected housing unit separately, regardless of how many families live there. The census announcement in Caracas was made during a meeting at the Guayana S. Okay, so they're having the census. And here's Argentina. Labor federations and social organizations called for a march to Congress to support pensioners and reject far-right President Javier Milei. Okay, I think I'm going to have to call it a night. Yeah, Belina says, wonder when the Cuba documentation was stolen. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And then it was returned by the United States. It's like, huh, somebody in the U.S. stole it, or, they didn't go into details about it. I don't know, Evelina. Why would Harsh think China wants to be Israel? I don't know. I'll have to ask him the next time, yeah. I was kind of shocked when he said that. I was like, what? Okay, well, thank you for being with me here with me today, Evelina. I appreciate that, and I like all your comments. Yeah, I got to talk to Madeline soon to see when she'll be joining me. But I know I'll be back on Saturday. Thanks, Dee. Good night. Yeah, good night, Evelina. Thank you again. And I should be back Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Talk about more of the news, what's going on. And I appreciate everybody who spent their time here with me tonight. And, let's just continue to do what we're doing. Everybody's sharing information. We're talking about information. People are writing their local leaders, the legislatures. I was happy to see with India, the youth are out protesting. People are standing up. It's time for people. And I know people have been standing up all over the world, but we've got to continue doing the best we can. People are protesting. Some are sharing information on social media. Some are doing both. People do what they can do. And like I said, it's heartbreaking around the world, the suffering people are going through. It doesn't have to be. It's heart-wrenching. And it's always heart-wrenching, when we go through the Palestinian territories, what people are going through. And we just got to keep praying and sharing information, letting people knowing what's going on. Because a lot of people really don't know. There's people that still don't know. So, we could just do the best we can and stay together as a family the best we can. Again, thank you and good night. And oh yeah, share. If you want to share the show, share. Like we always say, sharing is caring. Um, you share on your social media. I would appreciate that. And see you Saturday night. Thank you and good night. Free Palestine, free Latin America, free the world, free the U.S. Thank you and good night.